extra. Hey everybody, so I'm having just a little unexpected technical issues. I was tipped off to them by the fact that our YouTube intro music is being like, and that's no good. So my plan was actually to show you a movie today that is on, well, half of my plan today was to show you a film that I have on a server, So I will probably just ask you to watch that at home because I don't think I'm going to be able to stream it today. I just checked and it was being super laggy and annoying, and I'm pretty sure we don't want like 45 minutes of that. So I had this other half of class I was planning on working with Premiere and doing titles, and I could also maybe take some requests and take some extra time to answer questions. So I could definitely start off with answering questions, and then we could also like answer questions on the other side of looking at Premiere. Does anybody have any questions? Dun, dun. Let me orient you just a tiny bit to what's happening for the next couple weeks. So today, as I said, I was going to show you this thing. That's not going to happen. So you can watch it probably at home sometime. I think for the final exam, I'm pretty sure that you probably only need to watch it to about the first 24 minutes. You're more than welcome to watch the entire thing, but the exam questions are sort of concentrated in the first half of the film. And that's usually the half that I show during class. So it is important that you probably watch it today or tomorrow because your exam is on, dun, 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 dun. That would be Friday, Thursday. Hang on, let me look at this calendar. Right, so the 9th is Thursday, and that so the exam should be open from midnight on Wednesday to midnight on Thursday. So you would want to make sure that you watch the film before that. And I'm probably going to just send an email out to the entire class for the folks that are watching from home so they make sure that they know that they have to watch the film before they take the exam. Any questions about that? Yeah? There's a 24-hour window in which you are allowed to take the exam, and there's no time limit within that window. Yeah. Great question. Yeah? And the exam is like open to I'm not, yes, but also, yes. Yes is the answer, basically. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a police person, so, I feel like if you're sort of off doing your own thing, like, the point of the exam is not necessarily to, like, make sure that you know all this stuff, like, poof, I know the answer. The point of the exam is to just make sure that people are engaging with some of the course material. Yeah, hi. Is it just one attempt for the exam? Yeah, it is a single attempt because the time format is so long. Any other questions? All right. Well, let's take a little bit more time with Premiere then. I think that would be a good thing to do. So I went ahead and I just made one small change from before, and that's that I imported, or I actually copied and pasted the cat, sort of cat rain, into the timeline like 2 or 3 times. So as these sprinkles are being manufactured, like the cats are just sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. I also added a text marker. And so one thing you might find about text, this is actually a text that's slightly animated. I'll go ahead and just show it to you. So you can generate what are called layers. They used to be called graphics, and now they're called layers. And I guess layers is sort of a good way to describe them because they do function as sort of track layers, just like pretty much in the same way that video or any other sort of information would work in Premiere. So if I zoom in on this just a tiny bit, you can see I put it on the track above. I have 3 video tracks total. I put it on the track above the sort of cat rain, and then it just kind of comes up and it says cats are magical, and then it kind of slides up to the top when this beverage comes in. The sort of native way that Premiere deals with text is that it makes the text transparent. If you don't want the text to be transparent, like if you want it on a solid colored background, there are a couple of different ways to do that, and we could probably talk about some of them. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and show you how to sort of replicate this on the other cat layer here. So I'm just going to bring up my timeline. I'm vaguely where I want to put the new thing. I'm going to go up here to the Graphics and Titles menu. And there are all sorts of funky sort of templates that you can go to if you bring up this Essential Graphics palette. Personally, I don't really like this palette. I think it's kind of useless, and I don't really use like pre-made effects much. But I mean, they're fine. You can use them if you want, and if you want to use them, just drag them onto the timeline. Done. So it can be easy. So I prefer to work with my workspace like this. Basically, you can kind of just toggle the workspace out by adding this palette on the side here, and then potentially also getting rid of it. So now that I've done that, I'm actually going to reset my workspace because I'm not crazy about the changes that we've made here. Hang on just one second. I'm going to go to the big menu here and so I just tried resetting to saved layout, which probably should have worked, but I'm actually going to choose the editing preset. And oh, hello, Adobe. Everybody's cranky today. Stuff's not working. It's just one of those days. I usually don't send error reports because I feel like I'm always sort of like paying for this product anyway. And as a famous scientist that I have met at a conference once said, I don't work for free. Just remember that. So yeah, we'll just restart. Do I want to open the previous project? Sure. It's a recovery project now because it sort of crashed. That's fine. So basically, you can either sort of save it over the project. Personally, I would recommend that you save it as a separate project in case it's messed up. So I'm going to call it My Stupid Project 2. Okay, we're back. And our workspace layout is in good shape now. So here's the sort of cat thing that I wanted to sort of work on. And I think I had given a little bit more real estate to this third track. So I can kind of see things like the clip overlays and other things like that. So now, back at the ranch, I'm going to go to Graphics and Titles. I'll make a new layer and just make it a text layer. And so what that does is it opens up a new text layer. And when you have a new text layer, you should be able to kind of double-click the text in the program browser if you wanted to add some new text in here. So maybe I'll say cats are anybody? Epic. Fantastic. Yeah, magical, epic. I need a third thing too, so watch out. And so yeah, basically then I just can either if I hit enter, it'll make a new line break, but probably the best thing to do to kind of like deactivate the text is just to click on your selection tool or the arrow tool, or you can hit V on your keyboard. And then once you sort of get the text going, you can basically extend it like as far as you want, really, and you can make this long sort of text experience. So right now you can see the text is pretty, it's kind of all in the same place. It's not really doing anything. I'm going to show you how to do it statically first, and then maybe we'll experiment with trying a little bit of motion and through keyframe animation. So other things that I would probably want to do to this text, if you go into the effects controls, you might start here, and you go into the effects controls for this particular clip, so you have to double click it. Effect controls. And you can see over here this where it says text, you can just fly this menu down, and this has like all of the information for what you need to do to edit your text and make it look the way you want. So one of the things that text does when you bring it into Premiere is it kind of automatically is transparent. And that's because most people who are not artists use text for their intro and outro credits. So here it's transparent on a black background. So if you're doing credits or something like that, it's just immediately set up. Or if you're doing intro titles. However, if you're laying the text over other video, you kind of have to think a little bit differently about it. So here, I probably feel like changing the text to a black color would be a good idea. So I can change it to black. This font is actually a little bit light. So I think I'm going to choose a different font. I think the other one I chose was Helvetica New Bold. Although I'm pretty sure I also have another really fantastic font, especially for internet art. Oh, Impact. It's the best font ever. So we could probably just leave it with Impact, and then you can scale the text over here. Technically, if I'm using Impact, I should probably be using all caps, but I think we can forgive ourselves maybe for that. The other things that we could do, you can assign a background color. Right now, you can see it's transparent. Let's go ahead and just do that and see what happens. To activate it. So you can see when you assign a background color that it really only assigns the color to the bounding box of the type. And so if you want the background to be full screen, you actually have to make a separate layer, which would be a rectangle layer. So you'd have to go up here. We'll do this in the next example. You'd have to go to New Layer, and then this menu will fly out, and it'll say, text, blah, blah, blah. And rectangle is an option. And basically, just scale the rectangle to be this whole size of the screen. But for now, I don't think we want to kind of like deal with this. And yeah, there's a bunch of other parameters like opacity. You can actually assign the same opacity settings to text as you do everything else with those layer blending modes. And then lastly, if I kind of come down here, I'm just going to put some sort of simple ramps on this with the pen tool. Okay, that's better. Today, all of the sound effects are going to be meow. Okay, so let's, after this, let's go to render into out. And so text is definitely one of those things where it's probably not going to display optimally unless you render it. So I'm just going to do render into out. And you might notice that actually for the other one, I already rendered it. It looks like I moved it around a little, so I have to re-render it. So it'll render both of them. It shouldn't take too long. Pretty much, if you have an effect and you render it, It should be stable. It shouldn't need to be re-rendered. If it would only need to be re-rendered if it's like blended with something underneath it and maybe you slide it over on the timeline, then definitely you would have to re-render it. And as I said, I think probably in the last class, like rendering in general is something that you should probably do as you go, because if you wait until your entire video is done to render it, you could be dealing with like 1 hour plus render times, and that's no fun. All right, so when you render, it kind of plays from the beginning, and we don't need to see that. So here's my old text, and then here's my sort of new simple text. And then here, let's go ahead and make a graphics object to sort of hold our text. And so what I mean by that is basically like, let's make a background that covers a significant portion of the screen and just allows us to have like a really high contrast kind of text. So why would we do that? Well, especially when you lay text over video, this actually works pretty well. Over here, it works less well because there's sort of stuff in the way. And that's really typical. So that's sometimes why you see, when you see captions, like, or when you see a runner on the news, it usually has like a area of the screen that's blocked off for text to run through, right? And that's just because text, I used to be a graphic designer. We talked about that. I haven't been a graphic designer for a really long time, but I do know that keeping text readable is one of the most important jobs you have as somebody who uses text. So definitely, even in artistic situations, you want to emphasize, the readability. So, okay, we were promised a rectangle. So if you go up here and you go to New Layer, Rectangle, it should generate it somewhere. Where did it go? I'll tell you what, I'm going to just do that one more time. Okay, so it looks like it's actually generating it in as part of this clip, which I'm not 100% sure why it's doing that. So I'm going to undo twice. And so right now you can see I have the source browser is activated, and I'm looking at this particular clip, wind blowing through the trees. So basically, I think what I'm going to do is this is, I'm just going to put my playhead over on the edge of the sort of work that I've been doing. Okay, I found it. So basically, it looks like it's sort of riding along with this cats are epic thing, which I think is what I asked it to do at the very beginning. So I can kind of move it around here. One thing that I'm not like 100% certain about is like, let me just, actually going to get rid of it here. Hang on just a second. Clear. So what happened, I'll tell you quickly what happened. So what happened is that I have this clip selected, and I really want to have no clip selected, and then it won't sort of like stick it inside the clip, right? Because I want this to be its own thing. So that was like a super simple error. Sometimes seeing and doing is kind of tough. Okay, so when you click off, just like in a blank area of the timeline, now you can see that I have this sort of rectangle here. And you also notice that, as I would have hoped for, the rectangle generated right on the timeline where the playhead is. That's what I would expect. So I'm going to slide it over here, and now we should have it over here. And so from here, I can start to say, okay, well, first of all, I think I want the rectangle to be the background for the text. So if I'm adding text to this, I probably should put the rectangle down on track 2, because then I can have the text on top of it, right? So the next thing I have to think about is how to scale the rectangle. And you can do it sort of interactively through various tools. I think I'm probably going to just make it like a kind of a runner on the bottom, like we talked about, like with the news, or maybe some sort of, you know, subtitles or something like that. And I don't necessarily have to keep it gray. I think I'm going to go ahead and just make it black. Okay. So I'm just going to move the playhead around and make sure that nothing unexpected is happening. Okay, that seems fine. Everything seems fine. And then after that, I think, again, I'm going to deselect this so I don't have that sort of same thing happen twice. And now I'm just going to go to New Layer and Text. And so now my new text layer is automatically an awesome impact, which is helpful. And I probably want to make a couple of adjustments. First of all, I'd like it to be white so it stands out against the background. So that's easy enough. If I double-click this, double-click, and go to Effect Controls, it should bring up the text right here. And then I can change the fill color back to white. Okay. And this doesn't seem very catspirational, so I think I need to change this text. So we have one more time to sort of think about what cats are. Wait, I think this time. Anybody? Phenomenal. Okay, well, guess what? We have to change the location of this text. So there's a couple ways you can do it. You can just drag it around once it's selected. Or if you come over to the edge of the, where it says align and transform, you can take any one of these parameters for the position, which is right here. And if you actually just click inside and then, let's see. Well, I'll do it over here. So from over here, if you, you can basically type the number in. There is a shortcut key for actually scrolling through, which is kind of fun. For some reason, not able to do it right now. So basically, you would just like say, okay, 200, and then it would move the text over. So yeah, you know, there's a bunch of different ways to do things in Premiere, and I wouldn't really worry too much about it. So I'm going to just undo that. And now I'm going to kind of like take the transitions here just a tiny bit more seriously. So I'm going to give myself a tiny bit more real estate on this frame so that I can see it. Okay, that's better. And yeah, I'll go ahead and just expand this track out a little bit. And I want this to last pretty much the entire run time of the box. there you go. And so that should sort of stick on for the whole time. Now, I'm going to take the text, and I think I'm going to make the text a good bit longer than the box, because I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to actually move the text at a certain keyframe. And so that's like getting into maybe slightly advanced territory, but I think it's a cool technique, and I really would like to show you all how to do it. So before we kind of get into that, I'm going to go ahead and just make a couple little ramps for this with the pen tool. So I'm going to drop it down so it comes up really quickly. Sorry, y'all. I have the screen resolution set in a challenging resolution. Okay, so now we should have this moment where if we take the playhead and we scrub it through, the box sort of drops away and the cats are still there. And so that's basically at the moment where I would like to try having some stuff happen. And so basically what I want to do, what I just did by using the pen tool was I created what's called a keyframe. We haven't really used like fancy language to describe what those little dots are, but guess what? They're called keyframes. And so keyframes are basically like a way for you to say, at this frame, start doing something. And so here we're saying at this frame, start dropping the opacity, right? That's mostly what we've been doing. But you can also use these keyframes to do motion animation, literally almost any parameter in any sort of parameter or effect can be keyframed. So basically what I want to do here is I want to sort of have it at its resting position, and then over the span of a certain amount of time, I want it to move to a different position when it hits this keyframe. And so what I would do in that case is I would go ahead and go to this keyframe. If I double click this, by the way, and go to Effects Controls, you can see here that it's seeing So let me clean this up just a tiny bit. I'm going to roll the text out this way. So at this point, now I just made a keyframe with the pen tool, but what you really need to do, I kind of just wanted to show you the relationship here. If you go over to where it says motion and position and you click, I believe it's, click this little, it looks like a clock. And then you can also see that it adds a keyframe in here. Then here, usually I do this with the playhead. So I could move the playhead maybe like just before it ends. And then here, I want to go ahead and add another keyframe. And basically on this keyframe, I would like to put it in a completely different location. And so what it's going to do, if you set it up right, I'm going to go back one step here. Okay. So it's really about what happens in these keyframes. So here you can see if I click on the keyframe, the position coordinates are pretty much the same, right, as they've always been. Then if I go to the next keyframe, if I just navigate to the next keyframe, which it looks like right now I only have one. Oh, interesting. I only have one keyframe. Okay, so I'm going to make one here then. Sorry. Hang on. I'm just going to do this one more time. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble with my seeing stuff right now. Okay, so I want to start right here. I'm going to just add this keyframe. First, I have to activate the position thing. Okay, so adding a keyframe, the position is totally fine. I'm going to just do this pretty close by so that I can kind of have access to these keyframes. So for this keyframe, if I go ahead and move stuff, so let's go ahead and move this up here, then for some reason it's not changing the position in here, and that's a little, I think I might have the wrong thing selected. So let me just double check here. Effects controls. Okay, so basically, instead of sort of like working with it in that way, we kind of, you have to use these number panels. So let me just go back a couple steps and review that. Okay, so second keyframe, I'm going to go ahead and make a keyframe. And then in that keyframe, I'm going to change the position here. So I think actually this position is fine. It's probably, I want to move it up, so I'm going to take it to like maybe like 100. Okay? And now we are in business. So basically what's happening is that usually I've done it in the past where I've been able to just kind of drag it around, but I think I probably don't have something enabled that needs to be. So doing it sort of like the kind of manual way is fine too. So does anybody want to see that again? Okay. Understandable. Okay, so let's just go ahead and we'll start with it maybe up here. Okay, so this is the position that we moved it to. All right, so it's just kind of sitting there. And what you need to do is you have to enable the keyframes. So go ahead and click this little watch thingy for changing position. And by the way, it works exactly the same way for anything in this menu that has a little watch. That means that you can keyframe animate it. Okay? So here, what we want to do is we want to click on this area right here where it says Add Keyframe. Okay, so now there's this third keyframe. This keyframe is just to sort of tell it that it's sitting still at that point, right? So it's basically your start point. So then what you would do is just move the playhead to another point, add another keyframe, okay? And then you can kind of move these numbers around. So here you would say maybe 200, and maybe this will move a little bit over to the right. And then we could even go a little bit further and make a different keyframe. If you put the keyframes like way further apart, obviously it'll move a lot slower. So here, if we were to take this last keyframe and move it maybe back here somewhere, we could definitely give it a sort of like slower moving appearance. So here, maybe I'll move this back another 100 pixels, and let's go ahead and move it like maybe pretty close to the top here. So what you get if you navigate through these keyframes, let's just kind of review the whole sequence. Okay, it should start moving as it sort of gets to those keyframes right here. Now it's in the same spot, and now it should start moving again. And then it's going to move slowly up. So if you are like an extremely detail-oriented person, you can literally use keyframes to animate anything. I know people that do animations with keyframes, and they have thousands of keyframes in their animations. Premiere is not really an animation package, so you're not going to get like a lot beyond this sort of keyframe thing. And so in animation packages, they have like a lot more sort of things that you can do as far as like where things like ramp, they get faster and slower over time, right, and things like that. You can't really do that kind of stuff in Premiere, but you can do basic keyframe animation. And it's a super powerful technique. I think that, again, it's not something that you're required to do or to master for your project, but I think it's just something that I kind of want y'all to know about and potentially do. So I'm going to go ahead and render this. Render. While it's rendering, does anybody have any sort of like questions as we think about possibly wrapping up? Anybody? Okay. So I want to send one thing back with y'all that we'll talk about on Wednesday, and that is that I want you to maybe ahead of time go to this website for royalty-free sound recordings. I provided you with a bunch of Foley sound clips. There's a folder of them. That's back from my days working at an ad agency. So they were somebody somewhere someday ago actually paid for those. So these are sort of more like user-contributed sounds, and it's a really fantastic resource. You do need an account in order to use the website, but it's run by a university in the UK, so I think the odds of your like user data being misused is extremely low, if anybody is concerned about that. So I can just kind of get in here and show you how that works. So once you log in, you can search for pretty much anything like cats, and let's see what comes up. Cat screaming? I'm not, huh? Cats eating sounds much more pleasant, yeah. So quiet. Ringtone trippy cats. Ooh. Let me turn the, okay. So right now, I just want to remind everybody that right now the Wi-Fi is like super laggy, so we're probably getting like a little bit of compression. You'll have to try these out on some decent Wi-Fi, because yeah, I'm not getting good. I can see the playback is skipping around a little bit. But anyway, hopefully this issue will resolve before we have class on Wednesday, because yeah, it would be really nice to be able to use some of these sounds. But if it doesn't, we can just use the sounds that I have. I have those on my hard drive. Yeah, basically Wednesday is going to be all about sound and how to get sound into your project and how to work with sound. And then after that, I'm going to show you on Wednesday how to export your project for various video hosting sites. Okay? So sorry about a little bit of glasses issues today, and I'll see you all on Wednesday. Have a great day. Good luck on the midterm.